Anyone who looks back to the Europe of the 16th century can see at one level the beauty of Renaissance and the Age of Discovery, or the so-called Age of Discovery. They can also look back to the Reformation, this great moment of religious awakening. But of course also it is a world of incredible religious conflict. David, introduce us to this notion that the world of the Reformation is also the world of religious conflict.
Happily. You're exactly right that we can sometimes think of the 16th century as this great, happy, positive place, but it was also a nasty and brutish place. And religious conflict is oftentimes at the heart of that. When it comes to an understanding of humanity's place in a divine galaxy and all that sort of thing, people differed, and sometimes in genuinely awful ways, with the result that many thousands lost their lives in the name of religion and dying for their religion.
There are two themes in our discourse of religion. Religion is that which can unite people, but religion is dangerous because it actually creates divisions. It leads to conflict. That is actually a 16th century notion, isn't it? That religion is a dangerous thing.
It absolutely can be a very dangerous thing, because on the one hand, you and I may unite in the name of religion, that we agree, right? We have an accord, but we might define ourselves in opposition to somebody else, right? And so that separation, that definition by opposition, could result in conflict. It could result in military conflict, political conflict, simply neighborly conflict within our own village, right? We might have ostracization in our villages. We might have alienation and violence as well.
The other interesting thing about conflict in the age of the Reformation is that it leads to its own developments within religion. I'm thinking, for instance, of Erasmus developing his whole theology of peace.
Yeah, I think that religious Irenicism is a really cool aspect of history, of religious history, because on the one hand we can point to the various sources of conflict, instances of conflict, wars of religion, executions, burnings at the stake, all sorts of nasty stuff. But I think that Irenicism and instances of coexistence rather than conflict are equally interesting, and a lot of historians much more recently are interested in looking at aspects of religious coexistence. So say villages where the main church was actually shared by Protestants and Catholics at different times of the day, right? Some hours for Catholics, other hours for Protestants, right? Same day, same village, same church. So here we actually see instances of coexistence and the avoidance of conflict. But we also need to bear in mind that conflict is endemic to the 16th century and to the religious reformations themselves.
And there's also another development from that conflict, and that is, and I'm thinking slightly later than the 16th century, people saying, well, a plague on all your houses. Either religion becomes completely internalized, or else is it too far to say that in the conflicts of the 16th century is the birth of modern agnosticism?
Ooh, it's tempting to head in that direction. There have been some historians who've investigated not just agnosticism, but even atheism into the 17th century. And although we see language of atheism, as somebody being accused an atheist, a godless, heathen, all this sort of thing, you'd be hard-pressed to find a single atheist as we understand them in the 21st century. You'd be hard-pressed to find a single one during the early modern period. They all believed in religion, God, in various ways. Though I think you're right when it comes to those who maybe were less certain, less dogmatic in their confessions and in their theologies than were maybe the diehards.
Right. From what you're saying, it's important that we bear in mind the actual awful brutality of the 16th century.
Yes.
But it's interesting, Irenicism, the live and let live of that church where they knew how to share.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating picture.
It is, and when we think about the conflict of the 16th century and how much of that conflict was in the name of religion, I think that Thomas Hobbes, in writing in the 17th century, may have been onto something when he noted that life could be nasty, brutish, and short.
And on that rather crisp note, thank you.
You're very welcome.